Hey everybody, this is Tim Williams from Rolling Coffin. You're watching CMS TV.
That's Dirty Looks right here on the Classic Metal Show with A Million Miles. And, hey, Chris, guess what?
Yes. What's that?
Another guy that we've never had on the Classic Metal Show before. After doing the show for 13 years, you would have thought that we've covered all the ground possible. But yet another guy comes out of the woodwork that we haven't had on before.
Who's that?
We've never had anyone from the band Dirty Looks on the Classic Metal Show before. And tonight we're bringing on Henrik Ostergaard. I said that right, Henrik?
Yeah, you absolutely did. And like one of the first people I've ever talked to.
Excellent, Henrik. Well, Henrik, you are the founding member of Dirty Looks, yes?
I was one of the three, yeah. There was three of us, and we started out in San Francisco in our late teens, but I was allocated the singing position, so.
Sure.
They voted me the singer.
Well, you guys had a pretty good run in the very late 80s and into the 90s, and then you guys kind of disappeared. And then you returned to the scene about 2 years ago with a release called Gasoline. And now you're back with another new release called Super Deluxe, which in my mind in this day and age, that's a pretty quick turnaround for 2 CDs in a row in such a short span of time.
Oh yeah, man! You heard we got one out called California. I got to push this one since I'm on your show, man, and it's big time. I got one out called California Free Ride that just hit this. It got shipped October the 7th.
Holy smokes! So
really cool.
So three in 24 months, huh?
Well, it's just like the record company. There's two records. There's like a European shindig and an American shindig, and the dudes, both of them. Well, I guess the chick and the dude over there, and the dude here said, "Hey, put out as many CDs as you possibly can because there's people out there that not like we're selling control your billion records or anything like that, but there's people out there that still dig your music and just keep it the same and keep it like that tight groove, and keep the melodies rolling and as many albums as you can." Right, we'll put them out. So
sure.
I thought that was a pretty good deal after all these years. Anybody could even give a flying rat's behind about, rock band. We're on metal band, kind of like a hard rock band, from late, like you said, late '80s, mid '90s type of thing.
Sure. So is it safe to say you found your creative groove once again at this point?
Well, I think, yeah, man, I shaved all the carpeting off my floors now. It's just hardwood floors in my house, and so I can hear a lot of echo. Yeah, so I say it's pretty creative. It's kind of like that Adam Sandler movie where he walks in that big mansion and tells all the servants to go, hoo-hoo, hear the echo. So now I got a lot of echo, so that means a lot more creativity, so to speak, in an analogy form.
Right. Well, dude, the Super Deluxe album it marks the return of Paul Lytle and Jack Pyers to the band. How did you get basically the original guys back together? With Dirty Looks.
I lied to them. No, that's the truth, man. No, yeah. Well, you know what? That is the truth. I lied. That's an oxymoron. It's the truth. I lied. But that's, pretty much it. I said, hey, we're going to be rock stars again. And obviously that's a lie. So that's how I got them together on the real tip, man. Low down.
Right, I hear you, man. Well, dude, you also have Jeremy Hummel from Breaking Benjamin playing on this. Is that correct?
Yeah, Jeremy played the drums on that Super Deluxe record, yeah. Did a real good job, I thought. He's an excellent drummer.
That's cool. It's surprising that he can play rock style, standard rock style, because Breaking Benjamin a little more modern.
Yeah, I'm not real familiar with the style that they played, but I mean, he just he grooved on the tunes, and he had a big influence. He said, with Phil Rudd from AC/DC, and like Phil Rudd's like one of my particular favorite drummers of all time. And, he grooved right along with them and added a little Snazarowski, where it needed to have some little sparkle here and there. And, it was really cool to work with, man. It just went like a breeze, It was like a blur, actually. Went down to the pub and stuff, and then, laid some tracks down.
Right on, man.
Hey, you. Why are you watching this with commercials? Go commercial-free and unlock exclusive content. Become a VIP today on Locals, Substack, or Rumble Premium. Stop waiting.
Well, dude, back in the 80s when you guys broke out, you guys obviously had, pretty significant MTV play with O Ruby and Turn of the Screw had a lot of airplay as well. But it never seemed like Dirty Looks got the credit that you guys deserved. It just seemed like there was like a couple of bands at the time that sort of had that similar, I'll call it whiskey drinking rock sound, like you guys or Junkyard or even like Salty Dog. Does it bother you when you look back at the 80s and you hear, the bands that did get huge that clearly didn't have as much songwriting talent or vocal talent or performance talent? Does it bug you that they got all the accolades when clearly they didn't have as much talent?
Well, tell you what, accolades is a word I've never heard before, man. Can you educate me on that word, please? Man, that's a cool word. What's that mean?
Like praise.
Oh, okay, cool. I'm down with that. All right. Well, you know what? I think it's that you can apply it to reality and you can apply it to any kind of entertainment industry, whether it be poetry, art, or music, or whatever it might be. Let's throw politics into this since it's an election year. It's being in the right place at the right time. So I myself know some, like, gifted musicians, man. I mean, they just, like, totally rock your world. And you hear them, and some bands, too. It's harder to get a bunch of guys together, But for whatever reason, it's just we're in the right place at the right time. And then there's some that, are in the right place at the right time that, everybody gets lucky. You got to be talented and lucky at the same time, I believe, in that type of an industry if you choose that. Now, if it's like, rocket science, brain surgery, then you just got to be schooled, That's why I asked you that. I'm not schooled. So, at any rate, I just, I think, I never kind of looked at it like that. I just kind of looked at it like, hey, we play 300 shows a year when we were rocking, and whether we played in front of, one person or 10,000 people, it was just like, hey, we're up there, we're jamming, man. If those people are entertained, regardless of ticket price and all that sort of BS behind that on the back end and the front end and so on and so forth, at the end of the day, it was just about getting up there and like feeling it, and sweat and real sweat, not sweat and fake sweat. I could pick out, fake bands in a heartbeat, but there's no sense in doing that. But, if you're a real band, then you're giving it your best. You're busting your ass for whoever's out there that's trying to, get off on your music in whatever way that they might, whether it's their first kiss or whether it was their, it can go in many directions, but that's the bottom. That's the way I look at it. And there, there's a bunch of bands that got lucky and faked it, but there was also a bunch of bands in our era that got lucky and were good as well. So you can pick out the different bands that faked it and got lucky, and you can pick out the different bands that were good and got lucky at the same time, and those are the ones that really still shine through, in my opinion. I mean, I could go down and name those, but I think I'd be wasting too much of their time doing that. So there's a lot of bands that were good and lucky out there, and there was a lot of bands that were good and unlucky. And it's just that's how I view it, and I can respect a band, I'll stand in the front row, and let them drip their respectable sweat on me. But if I don't respect them, I got my back turned to them drinking at the bar.
Well, Henrik, you mentioned Phil Rudd of AC/DC, AC/DC releasing a highly acclaimed CD, big sales, whatnot. You have a very Bon Scott quality to your vocals. Do you think that hurt you or help you in your career?
I don't know. That was an intentional on a particular song called "Oh Ruby," and ironically, we were managed by AC/DC's management for a number of years while we were in Atlantic. That was very, very intentional. It was a song from an album called "Cool from the Wire," and that was Max Norman, also Ozzy Osbourne, and a bunch of other stuff. I think Ozzy was like, and he did Megadeth, as well too, a big Megadeth record that went triple or quadruple platinum or something like that. No, it was like, me and Max, because there used to be a country golf club by the place, and they had the room until 12, so we'd rush down there real quick till before 12, and he always drank kamikaze. And he says, hey, this sounds like it could be like an AC/DC song, and that's what we did, and kicked it out like that. And it's pretty, for me, it's like comes pretty easy. Not trying to emulate, but I think maybe, it gained some attention, and it might also have taken away some attention from some other songs that might have been pretty cool too. So, we got 2 more albums. If you haven't heard of California Free Ride, there's another re-release that's coming out. We just did a show at this historic theater a week or so ago, about a week ago. But we recorded it live. There's only 3 in the country. It's the original Warner Theaters. There's only 3 in the country. We did a show there, and we recorded it live. And the acoustics, they didn't have microphones back then. So the Warner Brothers, they owned all the theaters, and that's the only place you could see moving pictures. And back then they didn't have microphones, so the acoustics had to be so good. It was a 2,500 seat, theater. So the acoustic had to be so cool that somebody could stand on stage and go, "Wah!" And, the people, sitting up in the balcony could hear it as well, too, just as clearly as a pin dropping. And we got a really cool sound. We added 2 of those live tracks onto an old album that people couldn't get called Slave to the Machine, and remastered and remixed it and put that out. That's going to be out, like, in about 3 or 4 weeks. But the California Free Ride, myself, I'm pretty proud of. We had a drummer from an album called 5 Easy Pieces, which Max Norman also produced for Columbia. And the drummer played on 5 Easy Pieces, which in my opinion was one of the better sounding records. And he also played on that, and we had a smoking guitar player who placed like in the top 5 in the Guitar Player magazine, poll for the United States. And cool. He's only 22 years old, man, but he smokes like, his name's Eric Brewer, man. I just got to pitch his name. He smokes like lightning, you know what I mean?
That's awesome.
And but I just wanted to pitch that because I'm trying to sell. Buy merchandise. No, I'm just BS. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm long-winded.
Well, Henrik, speaking of buying merchandise, I mean, obviously you put out Gasoline in 2007, and obviously back with Super Deluxe in 2008, and you've got another project going, and it's different than the 80s because it's 2000 and iTunes, and don't you think?
Well, I agree. I'm really amazed. I got my first computer. I didn't get it, but I don't even know how to turn it. I do know how to turn on a computer, but like in August of this year. So, but there's a fellow that comes over to my one office and he helps out with that, and it's pretty amazing, man. It's blown away. There's a lot of good talent out there, and it seems like I see a lot of these bands that are springing up that really are good, and I happen to like a particular type of music. Everybody has their own taste, you know what I mean? But I see a lot of bands that they got their roots. It's all in the roots, as long as we it all comes from one place. There's only so many notes. You can't invent a new note. So you have to choose, what they are. So I definitely agree with you 100% that the iTunes has changed everything. It's made so much. Actually, I think it hurt the people that are worried about money, but it helped the people that really like music. So you can look at it either which way. The suits and the ties and the bean counters, they're worried about the money. But, like you and me, we're here because we like the music. I'm not doing this to make money. I could do a lot of other things to make money, But, the thing is it's got to be for the music. If it isn't for the music, and you can see that. That's what I meant before when I say damn, I wanted to use that word you just taught me. But I couldn't fit it in the sentence. But that's what I mean by, you can take you tell the fake from the real. And there's a lot of real bands coming out, man. And I have a pretty broad, myself, I'm talking here, me, I have a pretty broad sense of what's good and what's not good. And it doesn't have to be in a particular genre, but just like, some guys like blonde-haired girls and other dudes, guys, and other girls like girls and so on and so forth. Everybody has their particular own taste. Right, wrong, and different, I can't judge it. I just got to live in my world, But I agree with you, 100%, man. It blows my mind. It actually blew my mind how many albums that were bootlegged from Dirty Looks when it got on. When the dude came up and said, "Hey, dude, did you know you had 25 albums on?" I said, "No, I didn't know that." But that, that was good to know.
Well, dude, it's so interesting, man. I mean, when you hear somebody put it, that basically what you're saying is that the music is the art. It's not necessarily the finance. And I mean, obviously, with art is existence, and it's all about the broad strokes on the little white lines, don't you think?
It's the Motley Crue album that shocked the world. 1994's self-titled release with its brand new sound and brand new voice in John Corabi. Fans were divided, critics were stunned, and the label pulled the plug. But for some, including rock critic Chris Akin, it was a game changer. In his latest book, Chris Akin takes you on a journey through this polarizing album, sharing his personal experiences and the impact it had on the rock scene. Love it or hate it, you can't ignore it. Get your copy now at chrisakin.net or on Amazon.
Well, I agree. There's an unfortunate irony in the whole situation. It's kind of like the dinosaurs. You need two things to exist and to be able to grow big. And you do need the, I always call them the suits and the ties, who wanted to be and live a certain lifestyle, but and then the people that the suit and the ties fed off of. But the people that they fed off of, they ran in big herds, if you know what I mean. And so they could get fed off a little bit, but they were still the ones that in the middle of the herd of the school of fish that made it through. But without the big suits and ties eating off of them, there wouldn't be a lot of other supplements. So you need the money in order to bring the music out to the masses. That's just a fact. With anything, you wouldn't know what ketchup was if it wasn't, or I wouldn't know what mustard was, if it wasn't advertised, or if it wasn't put out there into your face, like anything else. I just think that this makes, you don't know about a new car until you see it, in an advertisement, or somebody else driving it, or somebody else listening to that disc, or you see that album cover someplace and you say, that's a cool album cover. I call them albums, not CDs, because I'm old school. I'm from the late 80s, early 90s. So, but album sounds cooler to me than CD. CD is, it sounds too sterile. And so again, getting back, it is the music, yeah. But you do need both beasts. You need good and evil. If there was just good, you wouldn't know what evil was. Therefore, there would be no good. So everything would be nullified. If there weren't the people putting the money into getting the music out there, there would be no music out there other than what you would see, locally or who you would hear about. It wouldn't be any global awareness like there is now. Getting back to your shindig one question ago about iTunes, there can be a global awareness of something if it's good. And if it's good, people latch on to it no matter, what color their skin is or, what sex they are.
Well,
I'll go with a long-winded answer again, man. I'm sorry about that, man.
Well, Henrik, do you think the new wave of rock bands that are influenced from the 80s, such as Hinder and Buck Cherry and Wolf Mother, considering their proclivities and whatnot, what do you think?
You know what? I got to ask you one more time. Proclivities. I want to use that word, but I think I can put it in context with your sentence. Absolutely. I think that's really cool. I've heard their music, and I think that it rocks. It makes you feel. Maybe wherever they were influenced from, everybody's influences. I mean, I remember listening to Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, and Aerosmith, when I was 12, 13 years old. Those were like my first 8-track tapes. And so they influenced me. So I think that everybody's influenced by, and now it's so easy to be influenced by such a broad span of music. I have an 11-year-old son who's like a guitar player, and he rocks. I mean, he can play any Metallica riff that there is, and he plays drums. But he also listens to the Beatles. And then again, he'll play Guns N' Roses tune or Metallica tune, and then he'll play something new like a Breaking Benjamin tune, So at that point, he's got this whole generation of music to absorb from. That's why I think it's just getting better and better and better and better, because everybody has so much more access to the information via iTunes, via the computer or the internet, or however you want to put it. You can break it down to a real simple formula. But so I think it's really cool because you've got kids coming out, that are by the time I mean, my son's 11 years old. He's got a manager. And by the time that they're 17 or 18, going to be blowing away dudes, back 20 years ago, that it took them between 22, 23 years old to get to that point. And to that point of talent, just because of the amount of information that's gathered out there about music. Now we're talking about information, but it's music. There's so much more accessibility to it, and so much of a wider gender span. There you go, gender span. That's a good name for some 1980, early 80s legwear. But gender span, if you know what I mean. That's my answer to that question. And again, I'm sorry about it being so long-winded.
All right, Henrik. Well, listen, we appreciate you taking a few minutes to talk to us here on the Classic Metal Show. Go pick up their latest studio release, Super Deluxe, and pick up that Gasoline release as well. That was a kick-ass CD, and glad to see Dirty Looks out there on the scene once again. And
I say thank you for letting me yap at you for so long. I certainly appreciate it.
Sure. Well, Henrik, we're going to end this interview with the song "Bring Me Down." How about that?
I like that song.
Excellent. Well, here it is. This is Gasoline with "Bring Me Down" exclusively here
on your Classic Metal Show.
It's the album that shocked the world, Judas Priest's Turbo. In 1986, when heavy metal embraced the glam of hair metal, Judas Priest followed suit, unleashing Turbo. It divided fans, rocked MTV, and sparked controversy that still echoes today. In Cause and Effect Turbo, Chris Akin dives deep into the making of this polarizing album, sharing insider stories and personal memories from that explosive era. Whether you loved it or you hated it, Turbo left its mark on heavy metal history. Relive the controversy. Get your copy now at chrisakin.net or on Amazon.